Hey there, everybody. We are live. I'm doing one more stream down here in the basement. And I was listening back to my stream from last night. And since the mic didn't uh, connect directly, or it wasn't pointed directly at me, you couldn't hear it very well. So I'm trying to get in the routine of 6 p.m. streams every night. And I've got a variety of topics. So I'll take you through real quick what I scribbled out in my little handy dandy notebook here. So this is what I'm going to try to do. Okay. I don't know if you can see it. Live streams. Monday is Marxism. Mostly reading audiobooks, probably. Tuesday, I'm going to learn DaVinci Resolve. Wednesday, I'm going to learn GIMP. Thursday, I'm going to learn Ableton. Ableton Live, I already did that. Friday, politics news streams. I've been doing that. And then Saturday, spiritual new thought. That's what this is. And Sunday, we're going to read through the great books of the Western world. We'll see if I can keep up that rigorous schedule. But for me, momentum is everything. And I've had kind of a lazy Saturday, which I really needed. The day of rest. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Is today the day of rest, or is it tomorrow? I don't know. We'll try to figure it out. But yeah, I just said throw on the beanie and let's get this out of the way. So that's a 1-minute intro. Let's put these on. It's kind of nice to hear yourself. Oh yeah. Now I feel like I'm really inside the matrix. Okay. So, spirituality, where to start? I'll give you guys a little background and catch you up to speed on my own spiritual walk. I really like how Russell Brand will do his politics on his main channel, and then he also has his awakening channel. And I don't know, that inspired me. I think they're two sides of the same coin. In one of his recent videos, they talked about how Russell has almost single-handedly destroyed the World Economic Forum through his coverage by shedding sunlight on it. And he humorously said, well, my ego wants to march to the center of Rome and have the plebs and the proles throw flowers at my feet, but this is a collective effort. It's not just me. And that kind of talk to me is indicative of spiritual work he has done. And I've tried to do the same. It's very weird to talk about spirituality. Most people don't want to talk about it at all, but it felt strange for me to be on YouTube and not talk about it, because just as much as I listen to political stuff, which is all the time, I also listen to spiritual works almost all the time to balance it out. And I think they're two sides of the same coin. I know in Marxism, it's all about an atheistic philosophy, at least in the orthodox way. But to me, it's just a series of tools. It's scientific socialism. It is a way to organize the heights of industry in the most productive fashion to provide the most good for the most people. And I feel like if you're going to have a government at all, you should try to do that. But the spiritual work to actually have the courage to try to change the reigning economic order is, to me, a spiritual battle. And if you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, or you have a refuge to go to in difficult times, at least for me, it would be very difficult to keep going or to try that at all. It'd be interesting. I'd like down the line to just interview an atheist and ask how they do that. My guess would be they're some sort of existentialist, some sort of atheist existentialist, and they're, like what was his name? Jean-Paul Sartre was. There's a lot of pictures of him with Fidel, and he was an ardent communist. So I'm guessing you're getting meaning out of trying to change the world, in the physical world. But just for me, I guess maybe I'd be more in the Kierkegaard tradition of meaning through faith. And so I'll share with you where I'm at. Let's get started. So I found this picture, which I used for the thumbnail, and say a little prayer to God to help me easily share these tabs here, because the tabs are the bane of my StreamYard existence. There we go. Thank you, StreamYard, for giving me a little preview. The kingdom of heaven is within ourselves. It is our innermost nature and something between ourselves. The kingdom of heaven is in between people, like cement. Now, this is from C.G. Jung, however you say it, Visions, page 444. Now, in the Marxist tradition, I remember reading a whole article the other day about C.G. Jung, and I think he contributed to a few NAZI journals in the 30s. He was an elitist, obviously. He had no patience for communism, as Jordan Peterson will very quickly let you know. But I think you can still take his ideas and use them for good. I don't think the person that you're learning from has to be absolutely perfect in everything they did for you to take from them and learn from them. And so I've learned a ton from Jung, and found ways to apply him to my life. And as far as spiritual beliefs are concerned, my upbringing was Southern Baptist. I'm the son of a Southern Baptist evangelist. So I was raised in what I think was a very dogmatic way. You got to go with what your Bible says, son. You got to go with what that good book says. Well, I was a smart aleck teenager, and very quickly asked, well, who made the Bible? Who put this together? Who did human beings put this together? And then you start finding out, yes, it was put together by the Catholic Church at the Council of Nicaea around the late 300s. And it was mainly because, from what I understand, the church was threatened by various traditions. And this is all, I haven't prepared a historical presentation. I'm just giving you what I've learned in broad strokes. So there were other forms of Christianity. I want to say it was Manichaeism or something like that. There was a guy, and his ideas were starting to catch fire, that actually, God and Jesus are two different people. They're not the same God, because the God of the Old Testament is very, kill everybody in the town sort of a thing. Don't turn around or you're turned into a pillar of salt. And then the God in the New Testament, Jesus, is very, love your neighbor as yourself, forgive your enemies, bless those who curse you. It seems like they're two different people. So I'm not exactly sure why it was such a big deal to them, but they wanted to come up with the concept of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So what Jung's talking about here, to me, seems to be the concept of the Holy Ghost. The kingdom of heaven is in between people, like cement. Another group the Council of Nicaea really didn't like, who Jung really likes, were the early Christian Gnostics. And the best way I've heard it described was the Gnostics were trying to reach direct contact with God, whereas the more traditional, what became the Catholic Church, wanted to collect these canonical books. And then I think Alan Watts described it as, we'll kick Jesus upstairs and we'll say he was the perfect one, but you will never be as perfect as him. Don't even try. In fact, it would probably help you to feel guilty all the time. And we'll have a little box where you can come and confess your guilt. And and we'll do it that way. But as far as you trying to become like Jesus, like, good luck with that. You know, that's a heretic. But Gnosticism is the opposite of agnosticism. Agnosticism, you don't know for sure if there's a God or not. Gnosticism, you know for sure there's a God. There's the old clip of Carl Jung at the end of his life, and they asked him, do you believe in a God? And he said, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in a God. I know God. So that's Gnosticism. You've had some sort of revelation where belief is no longer necessary. I won't say faith is no longer necessary, but it seems like faith in believing in God himself may not be necessary. I think faith in believing God is working through you or guiding your steps could still be necessary. But this really kind of caught wind, caught speed with Jung's concept of the psyche, what's deep in your mind. The most famous concept of Jung, of course, is the collective unconscious. And if you start to read Jung in any way, he talks about the capital S self, which is at the base of your consciousness. And let's pull up a picture of that. This is a pretty good one. We will open image. Here we go. And share this tab instead. So this is Jung's concept of the psyche. You've got your persona, which is the part of your personality that you show the world. And then your ego is the part of yourself that, the way I describe it is, it's the part of yourself that you know exists. The I. I am Tyler McConnell. That's my ego, right? If you guys say nice things about this stream, it will make me feel good inside my ego. And my ego is also why I probably won't read the comments to this video, because this is incredibly personal, and I decided to put it out there. You know, I'm always open to being to learning more, but this one just opens itself up to pretty hurtful jabs. So in streams in the past, I'll have the comments up and be looking at the comments. This one I just went to private chat because I want to talk for an hour. And if you want to hear what my thoughts are on this, awesome. And we'll pick it up later on. But as you can see, I mean, that's the ego. It's fragile. It can be hurt easily. Okay. And that's above the level of consciousness. That's what you know is in your mind. All right. And then underneath that, you have the personal unconscious. This is starting to get into, Freud had id, ego, and superego. So he mostly shoved it all down in the id. This is Jung's model, though. Freud really didn't like anything to do with spirituality. He tried to make it all totally scientific, and that was the big break between Jung and Freud. Jung was Freud's star student, and Jung was very interested in spiritual stuff. How can certain people seem to tell the future sometimes? How can you know, what is that thing that you think of a friend and then they call you on the phone? Like, what's going on with that? And he was very interested in, I think the guy's name was Ryan. He did a bunch of experiments with like thousands and thousands of people with these, I think they were called Esser cards. And he'd have people try to guess what was under the card. And he found certain people were incredibly good at this. And science just doesn't like to go into all this. It just rolls its eyes at it and says, yeah, whatever. But I don't know. My intuition tells me there's something there, and we shouldn't just write it off. But that connection, according to Jung, was all the collective unconscious. And then he broke it into different parts. So the shadow is the opposite of the ego. So according to Jung, that's the part that if you hate something in someone else, if you absolutely just hate that about them, they're in your shadow. Okay. So for me, You guys know I love Nancy Pelosi. I pray for her all the time, but she is in my shadow. She's the part of me that, if I just threw my morality out the window and I just wanted to be totally cynical and eat $50 ice cream and use my power to game the stock market for myself and then snidely say that we live in a free market. And so this is all in my shadow. It's things I need to deal with because part of me think sounds pretty good. Like if you admit that to yourself, that's down in there. She's in certain bizarre ways living the dream. I don't think that would really make me happy in the long run, but the fact that it bothers me so much, Jung would say that's in my shadow. Um, Everything down here, he saw the self as the totality, and then he started getting into different archetypes exist down here. I find that interesting, the ego self axis. So there's sometimes I guess that's the idea that some things will pop in your mind, like through intuition. Like my entire idea to do this stream was from my intuition. My idea to do a different subject each day was in my intuition. It came to me. I really like to learn things with people. I don't really like to learn things on my own. It's my extroverted intuition, which all that comes from Jung as well, the Myers-Briggs. A lot of people roll their eyes at that. I've gotten a ton out of that as an ENFP. It's all extrovert intuition. I collect what I think works in the world, and then I love to share it with people. I love to try to present it in a logical fashion. That's my tertiary function, extroverted logic. So mine goes, I collect information from the world. I run it through my internal value system. That's my second function, introverted feeling. That's why I can't live like Nancy Pelosi, because it doesn't jive with my value system. A lot of revolutionaries were also ENFPs. Che Guevara, Fidel, Gaddafi. We scan the world, see what works. We run it through our internal feeling system. Is that a good way to live? That's Che's. Every revolutionary is guided by a feeling of deep love. And then we express it through extroverted thinking. George Carlin was probably the master of this. He'd very logically explain these insights he'd had from the outside world. Our inferior function is, I think it's introverted sensing. It's like keeping things in order, doing things in a certain kind of way. I think it's why if I go to a restaurant, I almost always want like the good hamburger. If I explore and try something different, I'll just be disappointed. And then everything else is in the shadow function, the other four functions. So that was very helpful, Jung. Your theorization there, I've gotten a lot out of it, and it's helped me understand who I am and what I'll like to do in life and things like that. But so his archetypes, he has different archetypes. Let me find, there's one other chart that I think may be helpful to share. It shows the archetypes a little better. Jung view of psyche. There it is. So this one shows a few of the different ones, a few more archetypes in the unconscious. I'll share this tab instead. Here they are. So it's very similar. But you got the complexes down there. Freud really explored that. You got the personal unconscious, the transcendent function. I remember reading a little bit about that. That's how you can overcome some of your own BS. Inside right here, the shadow, you got the anima and the animus. And I remember, I think men have a anima, I believe, and women have an animus, according to Jung. But it's the idea that when you're young, as a young man or a young woman, you will have someone become an anima lock for you, and then you'll start to project this ideal anima, the ideal, if you're a man, the ideal female onto them. rarely do they live up to this ideal view that you have created for them, and it causes a lot of problems. But Jung said this was because you have this perfect archetype deep in your subconscious of the perfect uh, other sex, and that can cause a lot of problems. Um, there's other archetypes down here: the great mother, the trickster, but the self is the one I wanted to focus on, because Jung, when he started to analyze dreams, he said anytime that you see an old man in your dream, that is the self talking to you, the capital S self. And he said in Western culture, Christ, Jesus Christ, is the ultimate representation of the capital S self. So, we went over some of the broad strokes of this. There's one other chart that I really like, and I want to show it to you here. This one's kind of interesting too. You can see that the self is all-encompassing. Excuse me. The interesting part to me is Jung says the self is our connection to God. And I talked about this last night. I kind of think of it as like, I remember watching a documentary on mushrooms once, and they were talking about how one of the hugest living organisms in the world is this mushroom colony, and they're all connected underneath the ground. And to me, that's the collective unconscious underneath underneath the ground, and that's what we're connected through. Uh, the most helpful way I've found to think of it is that's our deep psychic connection to God. God is down in there. God is in everyone. And this is the big realization when I saw this chart. This really helped me understand what that meant. And I will zoom in on it here for you. So this is a guy, his name's Robert, he's Italian, I'll try, Assagioli. So this is his map of the psyche. Okay. So this is the normal map of the psyche here that he thought we live in. The lower unconscious, the collective unconscious right here. There's the ego dead in the center. So all these different, psychoanalysts, psychotherapists had their different takes on what's going on down in the mind. He's changed this a little bit here, but that's the conscious I, the ego, and up here you have the superconscious. So this is the part that really broke through to me, and it's been in a lot of the new thought books I've read recently, mainly by Yule S. Anderson. One called The Secret of Secrets. I think it's his second book. He's most famous for his book, 3 Magic Words, which was pretty much I am God, which sounds sacrilegious if you're raised Southern Baptist. But once you start to understand that they're talking about connecting with the deep self inside of yourself, and I've found lots of ways in my own spiritual walk to make that make sense through my traditional Christian upbringing. Like when you invite Christ into your heart, I'm pretty sure the Greek word for heart really means subconscious mind, from what I understand. So it makes perfect sense with the concept of the capital S self. And over here, if you can merge with the self, if you can start letting go and letting God, which is one of my mantras that I try to live by, through conscious attention, through dwelling on the divine. This is kind of a Platonic idealism, I believe. You can start to move up and fuse your ego with the superconscious, so that while you're alive, you can let God make his, her, its decisions through you. And you can kind of surrender this battle to feel like you always constantly have to be right. you can have faith that you have the self, capital S self, deep inside of you, and you can let go and let God. So I said this morning. I really wanted to go to the next couple events with the political organization I'm a part of, the Center for Political Innovation (CPI). I don't know exactly how I would get the funds together to get there, but I started to worry about it this morning, and I just decided, what's the sense of worrying about it? What is worrying about it going to do for me? I don't think it's going to do anything for me. I don't think it's going to help me get there. I'm just going to let go, and I'm going to let God take care of it. I just lay the burden down, and then I go on with my life. And lo and behold, that very afternoon, someone stepped up and said they'd make sure that it can happen because they think I need to be there. So I didn't worry about it at all. I let go. I let God. God, I think through the collective unconscious, connects. You know your little mushroom buddy down the way is struggling, and you get a little bit of a premonition, and you step up and help that other person. Now, this is huge for me because if we're all connected underneath, then we should take care of each other. And this goes for everybody. And I find a lot online, there's people that are like really serious into Marxism, channels that are almost solely dedicated to that. So I think of something like Hakim or the Finnish Bolshevik, maybe, things like that. And I've learned a ton from those channels. I love them. But then on the other side, there's this kind of like new thought spirituality channels that focus a lot on this kind of stuff. How to get in touch with the capital S self, how to let go and let God, how to have more faith in being able to do this right here, into fusing your own ego with the superconscious, and you can co-create with the divine. And there was a great quote I read in Emerson yesterday. It's in his Compensation, and he talks about how the spiritual exclusionists sort of negate the entire point. I like to read all the spiritual works. I like to read the Bible. I always come home to the Bible. Thich Nhat Hanh told Martin Luther King to just go back to Christianity because it's all in there, and living Buddha, living Christ. I've gotten a ton out of Buddhism. It's another mantra of mine. Let your ego die. Let your ego die. If someone says something hurtful to me and I want to quip back, nobody quips back better than Haas of Infrared. I want to quip back. I want to start screaming. I never feel good when I do that. I never feel, even if I win, even if I completely destroy this other person and just gut them like a fish in front of the whole world, humiliate them, destroy them. People love that. Destroy so and so, destroys so and so. If I destroy so and so, I am not going to sleep well. I'm going to sleep horribly. I don't want to destroy anyone. I might want to win them over to my side, but I don't know. I kind of feel like life is precious, man. There's that Buddhist saying that the human life is as rare as a dolphin coming up out of the sea and somehow coming up through a hula hoop. That's how rare this incarnation of the human experience is. And I don't know, maybe it's selfish in a way. I don't feel good to be hateful. I think that's kind of the ENTP, ENFP split. Most comedians are either one of the two. There's a great diagram that portrays Bill Hicks on the ENTP side and George Carlin on the ENFP side. And ENTPs will often play up emotions when they're actually fiercely logical. So I always think of Bill Hicks' final where he says, "It's all just a ride. This life is just a ride. It's a ride at an amusement park," right? And there's two choices on this ride between fear and love. Fear wants you to put bigger locks on your doors. Love sees us all as one. And he says your beliefs are just that. They're how you were taught and raised. And he always recommended a Terence McKenna heroic dose of psilocybin to blow that apart. I, of course, would never recommend anything like that. Because of federal law, of course, even though indigenous communities have used that for time immemorial. But your beliefs are that. They're how you're taught and raised. And life is just a ride. You get on it, you get off of it. He died at 34, and you get to choose between fear and love. Fear told me to never do this stream. Never make yourself vulnerable like this. The people in your Marxist communities are going to call you an idiot and say, "Oh, he's just a hippie, new age, crazy person," you know? Whatever. That's fear. Love tells me that these two sides someone should be on the internet trying to unify them. I've thought of various things to call this. I went from Jungian Marxism to Emersonian Marxism to mystical Marxism. I really kind of like the last, MM. But someone I feel needs to try to unify these two sides. And like I said before, I feel Marxism is this incredible tool for how to manipulate the outside world for good. And I think Jungian's depth psychology is an incredible tool to explore the inside for good. And there's actually a great essay someone wrote on it. It's a PhD thesis someone wrote kind of getting this ball started. But then the later essays have nothing to do with class and they just become woke. So yeah, this field's virtually unexplored from what I've seen. And every week I'm going to get on here on Saturday and talk a little bit about it. Now, I thought about it when I first started this stream. I thought, should we do Saturday or should we do Sunday? Because I think there is something to symbolism, certain days, archetypes. That's all Jungian. And I can't remember exactly which one I found it on. I think it was, let's see if it was this one. Nope, it was not that one. So many things you'll search at work on Google, and then my home computer's DuckDuckGo. So Saturday, Sunday, Sabbath. Which day? What day is the Sabbath? Oh, I already clicked on that one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, the one I looked at. And if not, I'll just summarize it. Some people say Sunday was changed because the fusion of Christianity with paganism. Sunday is the day to worship the sun. Like I said, I don't know how dogmatic you want to get about this. I don't know how much it matters. But just for me, here lately, I'm trying more and more to trust my intuition. And I think intuition is that capital S self connection to your ego. You just kind of get a tingling that, like, you know, um, that's the one. That's the one you should do it. Um, so this one's saying the first day of the week. The early church met on Sunday regularly, Acts 20. So it depends which one you read. It doesn't really matter. But the one I saw seemed to be that this is the one I looked at. Let's try this one. Share this tab instead. The biblical Sabbath is Saturday. Then why do most churches worship on Sunday? And just like I suspected, it comes down to the Church of Rome. But in the vast majority of the Bible, they are chilling out on Saturday. So, but some of my family members are Seventh-day Adventists, and they keep the Sabbath. It's very important to them. They go really in depth with this. They talk about the Sunday laws coming, and that's how they're gonna take over. No, I'm not. I don't know about all that. I love my family members, but I don't know. Saturday just felt right for me. I remember them talking about in the Bible, Jesus would rest on Saturday. And here we go. Christianity seemed to be a sect of Judaism because it was also a monotheistic religion. Christians believed in Jesus as a savior and kept the seventh day as the Sabbath, just as the Jews did. So Jesus was a Jew. He kept Saturday. So I figured I'd do this on Saturday. But like I said, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I do like how I can share one tab and then just switch between them. So that's the big one to me. And if you're interested in this at all, I kind of have the curse of knowledge as the cognitive distortion. Once you know about something, I feel like everyone else already knows about it. That's not necessarily true. Jung came up with this concept of synchronicity, which I like to think is God connecting us through the subconscious. This is about his concept of synchronicity. It is a meaningfully related, yet lack a causal connection. So it's best summarized in the great liberal Bill Maher's concept. What did he say? What's his catchphrase? I can't prove it. I just know it's true. I can't prove it. I just know it's true. And one of my favorite professors in grad school, he talked about how the reductionists in science will always win, at least in the academic world, because they'll always say they just don't have much patience for anything like this. And it's given a lot of meaning to my life. So Jung was friends with Wolfgang Pauli, the theoretical physicist, one of the pioneers of quantum physics, and they came up with the Pauli-Jung conjecture. So I don't know how much we need to go into it, but they had some overlap between. Well, let's just read this. The Pauli-Jung conjecture is a collaboration in meta theory between physicist Wolfgang Pauli and analytical psychologist Carl Jung, centered on the concept of synchronicity. It was mainly developed between the years 1946 and 1954, 4 years before Pauli's death, and speculates on a double aspect perspective within the disciplines of both collaborators. Pauli additionally drew on various elements of quantum theory, such as complementarity. What is that? Niels Bohr holds that objects have certain pairs of complementary properties which cannot all be observed or measured simultaneously. Okay. Non-locality refers to the phenomenon by which the measurement statistics of a multipartite quantum system do not admit an interpretation in terms of a local realistic theory. And the observer effect is the disturbance of an observed system by the act of observation. This is often the result of instruments that, by necessity, alter the state of what they measure in some manner. A common example is checking the pressure in an automobile tire. Okay. Jung and Pauli thereby offered the radical and brilliant idea that the currency of these correlations is not quantitative statistics, as in quantum mechanics, but qualitative meaning. Contemporary physicist T. Filk writes that quantum entanglement, which is the phenomenon that occurs when a group of particles are generated, interact, or share spatial proximity in a way such that the quantum state of each particle of the group cannot be described independently of the state of the others. Being a particular type of acausal quantum correlation, was plausibly taken by Pauli as a model for the relationship between the mind and matter in the framework he proposed together with Jung. Specifically, quantum entanglement may be the physical phenomenon which most closely resembles the concept of synchronicity. And Jung proposed that the concept could have psychiatric use in mitigating the negative effects of over-rationalization, which is a defense mechanism in which apparent logical reasons are given to justify behavior that is motivated by unconscious instinctual impulses. It is an attempt to find reasons for behaviors, especially one's own. So that's rationalizations are used to defend against feelings of guilt. Oh boy, I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with that, but if you're raised Southern Baptist, I had a friend once, he goes, why do you think they call it Southern Baptist? Did you feel guilty at all? You think that was used to control people? Yes, but I think you can pluck the rose from the thorn bush. It taught me to put something bigger than myself above myself, and I'll work through the hell trauma to keep that flower. Mind-body dualism. In the philosophy of mind-body dualism denotes either the view that mental phenomena are non-physical or that the mind and body are distinct and separable. Thus, it encompasses a set of views about the relationship between mind and matter. Okay. So yeah, Jung thought it had to do with intention. Self-actualization as an element of the psyche is potential. So yeah, you can go down this forever. It's fun. But to me, it's Taoist, a let go and let God. God is the Tao. The East had some stuff figured out. Let's see how I'm doing on time. I'm gonna go for an hour and then quit. I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time, and hopefully I can do this again next week. Although I don't know how much more I can add to it, but that's okay. We got that capital S self down in there. There's plenty to go on for a long, long time. Trying to think of where else I wanted to talk about this. There were other explorations outside of just the Bible itself that have given me a lot of insight. Like I talked about the Tao Te Ching. The first time I ever read the Tao was absolutely huge to me. I fell in love with that book immediately. I read the Stephen Mitchell translation. I know to you Tao heads out there, that's not the best or whatever, but it got through to me. And number 9 has given me a lot of peace in my life. Let's pull it up here and look at it. Share this tab instead. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. So many good ones in here. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as bad, other things become. So when people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything. So this is the let go and let God. And teaches without saying anything. This is what I was talking about yesterday. Most of the things we teach other people, I don't even think we're trying to do it. It's that self-peeking through. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess. Acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. And that is why it lasts forever. Man, that is just like, I can't believe that was like 600 BC. That hasn't changed at all. And it reminds me of the third verse from the Gospel of Thomas, which is one of the Gnostic Gospels that they pulled out of, what was it, Naj Hammadi or whatever, in the 40s, 50s. Supposedly as old as Mark, if I remember correctly. But the third stanza, or third verse, I guess it would be. Here we go. Let's just do this one. Oh, that doesn't really render that well. How about this one? That one doesn't either. All right. This one does. Verse 3 says, so remember in the Tao it said, what did it say? People see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. So here in the third verse, he says, Jesus said, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom is in heaven, then the birds of the sky will be there before you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will be there before you. But the kingdom is inside you and outside you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known. And you will know that you are the children of the living Father. I think what that means is that capital S self, our direct connection to God, is in our subconscious and speaks to us through intuition and vision if we have faith in it. And the more we have faith in it, the more it will become fused with our conscious ego and hopefully supplant the ego so we don't spend our lives just beating ourselves up and not doing anything. But if you do not know yourselves, then you dwell in poverty, and you are that poverty. So this is the big one. The kingdom is inside you and outside you. And to me, that works very well with some things. Some people, when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. So I kind of think, and you can draw this back into Marxism, I feel like the perfect world is here. We just have to visualize it and have courage and faith to put one step in front of the other to make it a reality. And to me, knowing that God lives deep in my psyche or my heart, whatever you want to call it, helps me do that. Practice not doing it, everything will fall into place. So I find it very interesting. To me, I had a professor tell me once that the different religions of the world are kind of like fingers pointing at the moon. None of them get it exactly right, but they're all pointing to the same deep truth. And it's very weird to me that, some people say Jesus traveled to India, I don't know, or, Plato was hanging out with the Egyptians. That's all fun stuff to think about. But just to me, it seems more likely that if that capital S self is in the base of every human mind, that's why these religious books seem to contain the same deep wisdom wherever they're being written across centuries, across continents. And I really want to know what like a historical dialectical materialist would think of everything I've just said. I kind of feel like they just tell me I was full of it. That this is idealism. That's like the worst word you can say in a Marxist circle. But I don't know. I don't think in America you're going to get very far with that. Um, this is a country of esoteric spiritual Christianity. It always has been from the day the persecuted got off the boat. So this is a non-dualistic, God doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. The Tao. My favorite one is number 9. If you let go of yourself, you're perfectly fulfilled. Joel S. Anderson talks about that, how evil, this is why I pray for Nancy Pelosi, evil is an illusion. It's our inability to see clearly, and growing up, you struggle with a lot of these, the kind of kindergarten Christian questionings. If God loves everybody, why did he create Satan? Why did he create evil? And just to me, I feel that there's more digging to be done there. And, reading the Bhagavad Gita about, this is, I think it's Krishna or Shiva, I can't remember, when he tells them it's time to, so Arjuna, I can't remember. I don't care if I embarrass myself. I'm not gonna let my ego die. But he pretty much tells them, like, he doesn't want to go to war because he feels that it's wrong. And God tells him, no, that's your role right now. That's what you're supposed to do. So I think I'm coming up on an hour, thereabouts, about 10 minutes more. So I'll share with you my favorite. I wasn't even sharing my screen that whole time. If I keep doing this, I think I have to have 2 screens because it's so helpful to see over here what you guys are seeing. Because I was going through these and you didn't get to see any of it. So I apologize. That's okay. Live and learn. Maybe you weren't supposed to see it. Number 8 and 9 are a couple of my favorites. The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus, it is like the Tao. Excuse me. In dwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. I think about that one all the time because there's so often, I have 2 precious little girls. They're 2 and 5, and I love them so much. And we live in this just unbelievably distracted world, Often I'll be listening to a stream or catching up on the news or even listening to a spiritual book, and I know I'm not being completely present with them. And I know I'm trying to move past guilt in my own life. I don't think guilt is very helpful. I don't think guilt is of God, honestly. But I don't know, just something to think about. In family life, be completely present. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. Man, isn't that the truth? I teach high school and I try to tell the kids that because when I was in high school, I worried so much about what everybody thought to the point where I was not being my best self, you know? And hitting record and putting this out there is at 35 years old, trying to overcome some of that terror I felt at the age of 15 when I just wanted everybody to like me. And I was so worried about it that they didn't. And I look back now and I see if you like yourself, don't compare or compete. Everybody likes that guy. My grandma told me a similar thing. Nobody feels sorry for somebody that feels sorry for themselves. And she was the shining example of that. She was dying of brain cancer and she was just worried about everybody in the hospital room, you know. Are you eating enough? Or did you miss work to come here? Oh, honey. I remember she's the best example of Christ I've ever seen in anybody. And she read all these same New Thought books I did. They were on her dresser at night. When she died, I pulled up one and it was like how to be like Christ or something, you know, the Christ within or something like that. And I told her in the hospital bed, I said, Grandma, I love you. I'll miss you. And she told me, she said, I'll love you wherever I am, sweetie. And that experience helped me know that she's still somewhere. And you can say I'm crazy. I don't care. You know, that's what Saturdays is about. It's going to be about leaning into the spiritual side of this and being vulnerable, let my ego die enough to maybe this will connect with somebody. You know, maybe this can help the political work in some way. Maybe it'll help your spiritual work. This is my very favorite one. Number 9. Fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. Do your work and then step back. The only path to serenity. I need that as an anxious person. You know, I'll start thinking about the details and I won't do anything. I'll just be like, oh, I didn't make that thumbnail well enough. Or I don't really know what I'm gonna say. Or, you know, I need to clean up a little bit before I do that. There's all kinds of excuses. And I find for me it's just best to do your best, let it go, let it be out there. Come back again tomorrow, try to make something better. Every version better. There's a great book about that called Just Effing Ship. Every version better. Learn as you go. I'd like to go out on this from the Tao, if I can find it. Reminds me of the Ukraine war. Weapons are tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them except in the direst necessity. So I think from learning communist history, that's what we do. We only use them in the direst necessity. It's usually like in Soviet Union, they were being invaded by Nazis. In Mao's China, they are being terrorized by the Japanese. In the direst necessity. It doesn't say to never use them. It doesn't say to be a pacifist. It just says, if you're a decent person, try in every single way to avoid them. Is that what the US does? I don't think so. And until it does, I feel it's my duty as a Christian and as a communist to stand up and try to stop it. Like I said, I wouldn't sleep well at night if I didn't. If compelled, he will use them only with the utmost restraint. I feel Russia is really doing this. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. But it's the direst necessity. They can't have NATO on their border. America would never let Chinese warships in the Gulf of Mexico ever. We didn't let nukes in Cuba. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but humans like himself. Man, I mean, how is this not Christianity? This is Taoism. I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, Zen was the Buddhists marched across China to Japan, and by the time they got to Japan, they had fused Taoism with Buddhism and created Zen. But I mean, you can put that on the fridge. He doesn't wish them personal harm. Does Victoria Nuland wish the Russians personal harm? You know, does what's his name? Oh, I can't. His name's slipping my mind. It doesn't matter. One of those Warhawk senators, Lindsey Graham. I'm sure he'd call himself a Christian. He's just giddy about killing Russians. Giddy about it. Nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. I agree with that. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next is one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. That's Maoism. I always wonder how influential the Tao was on Mao, because the Tao is the dialectic. Everything balances out. My whole trading philosophy. Maybe I'll jostle up these streams and do a trading talk one night, but it's all based on the Tao. Trend trading, everything moves in trends. It's human psychology. It's like birds flying through the air. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. If you want to be a great leader, you must learn to follow the Tao. You stop trying to control. Is that what our leaders are doing right now? Let go of fixed plans and concepts, and the world will govern itself. The more prohibitions you have, the less virtuous people will be. The more weapons you have, the less secure people will be. The more subsidies you have, the less self-reliant people will be. Therefore, the master says, I let go of the law, and people become honest. I let go of economics, and people become prosperous. I let go of religion, and people become serene. I let go of all desire for the common good, and the good becomes as common as grass. Here you go. Last one. The best athlete wants his opponent at his best. The best general enters the mind of his enemy. The best businessman serves the communal good. The best leader follows the will of the people. Now, if that doesn't sound like Mao, is that what our government is doing? We've got like 80% of people want to have some sort of, you know, people's health care, and it doesn't exist. Do the people want to go send their sons to die in a war in the Ukraine? I don't think so. They don't seem to care. It doesn't seem like they follow the will of the people. All of the embody the virtue of non-competition. Not that they don't love to compete, but they do it in the spirit of play. Right, Bill Hicks? Life is just a game. In this, they are like children and in harmony with the Tao. So, that's my first spiritual stream. If you guys like my work, you can support me. right here. Buy me a coffee. Tyler McConnell. Feels weird on a spiritual stream to hawk your wares, but I'm a beautiful child of God as well. He wants me to have money just as much as Nancy Pelosi. So I'll put that out there. It looks like a bunch of nice people were here. Lori, Jenny, David, Karen. I didn't even look because I didn't want to mess up what I was going to say. I just wanted to get this one out there tonight. But thank you all for stopping by and saying all these nice things. And yeah. Hey, namaste to you, Sherry Walder. I appreciate it. You guys are all kind, and I love y'all. God bless you. Tomorrow I'm going to be back. I'm going to start reading the great books of the Western world and try to get a real background for the entirety of philosophy, Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy. I feel that all of our leaders, if I want to have anything to do with politics, I need to understand as deeply as I possibly can all of philosophy and economics. And I'm going to learn that with you. If you want to stop in and see it, I'm going to be doing that. And I feel that should be a requirement is to be in the Senate. You should have to have read the great books of the Western world. I don't think that's going to happen. But if you guys want to check that out, come back tomorrow and I'm going to start that out and we'll keep trying to do this little schedule. I always piddle away an hour here or there. I might as well come down here and hit live. You know what I mean? And when it comes to spirituality, I'm all about the numbers. I love the number 7. I don't know if you guys are like that at all, but so we're going to wait until we're at 1 hour and 7 minutes, and then we're going to end the broadcast. Maybe we can make it 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 7 seconds. Can't quite wait for 7 hours, 7 minutes, and 7 seconds. But all right, let's see if we can hit it. You ready? There's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I love you all. God bless. Oh, I missed it. 11's next best.